let me just explain what Byte Sized Training is all about. So every month we run a Byte Sized Training session, which is around about 15 minutes to 30 minutes. We take a particular aspect of one of our products from the LogicMate portfolio, and we run through some scenarios and show you some tips of how to do useful things with the products. And we really encourage you to engage with us. We come up with all sorts of weird and wonderful ideas about what we think bite-sized training courses should be, but we'd really like to hear back from yourselves about what you would like. So if you've got a particular issue with one of the products, or you want to learn a little bit more, send us a note. There's some information at the end of one of the slides at the end, which will give all the contact details. But give us some feedback, tell us what you want, and we will plan to build a bite-sized training session for you on that particular topic. So today's session is all about dashboards using Genie. And I'm going to use a basic graph component to show some of the illustrations of using a graph. But a dashboard could be all sorts of other elements. You could have a slider control, or you could have all sorts of things that are showing up graphically that are coming from the system. Now, Genie by default is configured with the FusionChart application, but you can install any other of these sort of JavaScript-based apps within Genie. You can start to use them. Now, using graphs, we can take the data that's used to populate the graph from many sources, and we've looked at Genie sessions before, and we've done various things with different types of data sources. But you can get data from the screen. You can take data directly off the 5250 screen. You can create a graph with fixed data. You can use a database-driven graph, and all of these are great. But they generate a single series graph. So you have a two-dimensional graph where you plot the x-axis and the y, and you feed the data in, and the FusionChart component builds the graph from that data. If you want to do something a little bit more sophisticated, you will then need to build up an XML string, and within an XML string you can take control of the whole graph, and you can do all sorts of weird and wonderful things. And this is what I'm going to use today. So we're basically going to take the data from the screen, and we're going to build it into an XML string. And the reason for why I'm doing that is because I want to build a multi-series graph rather than just a single column basic graph. Now, when we build up the information using XML, or in fact you could use JSON. JSON is a sort of JSON XML, very similar, just different annotation. But if the basic functions are sometimes not enough, we can then feed information through the XML or the JSON file, and we can take control. In this case, multi-series. We can add extra functionality. We can include third-party components, and we can add things like drill down facility. So once you've built the graph, you can click on, say, a piece of pie from the pie chart and drill down into the next level of information. Okay. So typically this is what a multi-series graph looks like. So you've got your X and Y coordinates. So you've got Q1 to Q4 across the bottom, and then a value in thousands of, in this case, dollars, going up the side, up the left-hand side. So these are X and Y, but we actually want to plot two series. So I've been onto the FusionCharts website and worked out how to do this. It's very simple. And then basically this is the XML that we build, which you pass this XML data string into the chart function, and the chart function is built for you automatically. Now, if we look at the XML here, the majority of the XML that's in black is static. It doesn't ever change. So we're just going to put some fixed text in, and then we're going to take some data from the screen, and the areas that you see in red is data that I've populated from the screen. So all that we're going to do is we're going to add some script into our Genie graph component, which takes the information and substitutes it into the areas that are marked in red. So this is the principle in which the FusionCharts component works. Fairly straightforward, fixed text, variable text. Okay, so in our example, what we have is a green screen with some columns. We've got some planned values. We've got a base. This is basically a production line. So this is the base area, the production line itself, and this is the product that's being built. And then we're going to say this is the plan, this is the actual, and on the right hand side we've got a variance column. Okay, when we look at that particular screen in Genie, Genie automatically exposes every element within the 5250 data stream and gives it a name. So in this case, the column, this is the Genie representation of the green screen that we just looked at, exactly the same function. So I've highlighted one of the particular values, and it's assigned a name, and this is the principle in which Genie works. So all I need to do now is roll through this screen, look starting at D_3_2, which is that particular field. So and the next one would be D_4_2. So I just need to basically run a script which is running through the screen, and it pulls out that information and patches it into the an XML stream that's mostly fixed data. And this is the actual script, the JavaScript that we're going to use. Very simple, and it took somewhere within the region of 15 minutes to 30 minutes to create this. So all this is doing is just setting up some variables, setting up a variable with a base starting point, and then it goes into a loop. And all of this is building up a fixed string, which is very similar to what we saw in one of the other slides. And then it increments through the loop, and it changes the D_2 to a 3, and the D_3 to a 4, and so on. And this is what we do. We read through the screen, taking off the information, building it into an XML file that then we pass to the chart. So that script, once we plug that script into the Genie screen itself, you'll see that the results. So I'm now going to flip over onto the browser, and I'm going to look at, if I can just move this out of the way so I can see. Here's a Genie classic skin, which is showing us a green screen representation, and I'm just going to show you how the program works. So I click on this this menu option, and we can see there that this is the data that's being displayed, and F8 takes us to the next screen, and so on, and F3 comes out of the program. So if I now go into my Genie skin, this is the one that I've now customized. I'm going to show the working version first, and then we'll flip in and see how it works. So I'll take the same example. Now what I've done is I've taken, using that script that we saw, I've taken the actual variable data from the screen, built up an XML string, and passed it into a FusionCharts component. And from here, I've taken control of the look and feel. Within the actual hard-coded values, I've said that I want this particular graph to be just the plan figures. This is my variance figures, and these are my actual figures. And then I've got a multi-series graph component at the bottom, which is plotting the plan figures against the actual figures, so you can see that. So it's one type of dashboard using lots and lots of graphs. But again, you could use all sorts of others. You could use drop-down boxes and so on to represent your dashboard. So using the Genie product, if I go into my design mode, I go into design mode and the screen changes slightly, and then this little screen properties box pops up. So if I now look at my the properties, which is the onload property, which is fired up when the screen is loaded. So whenever you arrive at that screen, this is what they refer to as onload. And then in there, I've created my little script, and you can see it's basically scrolling down the screen in this do loop, as we said before, using this while, and it's taking the values until it gets to the end and it finds the word total. And then I've got 4 charts, chart 1, 2, 3, and I think the other one, the original, first one's called chart, and that's the 4 charts there. That's the XML string that I assigned to the FusionCharts. So within this one script, I've basically run through the screen, taken the data, pushed it into 4 separate charts, and then this is the result that you get, and then you press F8, and it builds another one, and so on. And if you hover over, you'll see that the FusionCharts now, the FusionCharts components, gives you some extra functionality that we didn't need to worry about coding. So that's the end of the bite-sized training session for today.